Alrighty then. We are ready for another episode of Album of the Day, or in this case, album of the day, but every day for the month of March. Uh, this is basically the all or none, according to Jack, version of the listening booth. So basically, what I do is I listen to an album every day uh, for the whole year. And I got this idea from my son Jason, who's been doing this for 2 years now. Incredible. And he still won't goddamn listen to Uriah Heep. Get on that, Jason. Just kidding. So I am about to tell you what I've been listening to for the month of March. So without any further ado, let's go. So I am working on a thrash metal project. So on March 1st, I listened to an album by the band Exodus, Bonded by Blood. Uh, I rate these on a scale of 1 star to 5 stars, and I do award quarter stars to try and pinpoint these albums, make it as accurate as possible. I try not to trash anybody unless your name is Taylor Swift. Okay, so Exodus Bonded by Blood, I gave it a rating of 3.75 out of 5. Pretty standard for 80s thrash, not 5 star, but pretty good. March 2nd, I listened to a band called Shadow Condition, Balancing the Silent Circles, metal. I don't believe this is available on disc yet, but you can go to Bandcamp. You can look on Spotify. You can look on YouTube. So basically, uh, this is this was released in February of this year. Basically, this is a friend of mine that I know from the neighborhood. Uh, Very good guitar work. Mix could have been a little better. My son was also listening to it with me in the car one day, and he agreed with me. The mix could be a little bit better, but fantastic guitar work. Uh, Employs a couple of different lead vocalists, and well, it's all very good. Concept album, so check it out. March 3rd. As much as I'd like to say I know everything there is to know about Swedish metal band Hammerfall, I did not hear the album in its entirety last August of the album Avenge the Fallen. Uh, 4.25, solid record, about what you'd expect from Hammerfall. So then what I decided to do is I was actually watching uh, a video that Pete Pardo, uh, Brendan Snyder, Grant Arthur, and Phil, I believe, Phil Ashton. They did it. They did an episode where they talked about 5 albums that their favorite albums, basically the best albums of all time. So Pete mentioned he, he mentioned Gentle Giant, but I also what I did was I went to his he did a ranking of the album, and what I did was I went in and I grabbed a couple of the albums that he talked about. So for March 4th, I listened to the album Three Friends. That was his number 2. Uh, Basically, I gave it 4 out of 5. A bit avant-garde. I like it when the instrumentation is more straightforward, but pretty good nonetheless. So I decided to do a double shot of Gentle Giant. So I also listened to Gentle Giant on Wednesday, March 5th. The album Freehand. Basically, he said uh, it was his number 4. Flashes of greatness, and also in some spots, not really my cup of tea, but 3.75 out of 5 for me. I'm more of a hard rock guy, but guys, I'm trying. Okay, so March 6th, and I'm ashamed to say I have not listened to everything in the Blue Oyster Cult catalog. I'm trying to catch up. I am I am sadly devoid of all these albums, which is why I have undertaken this project. Product. Duh. Uh, March 6th, Secret Treaties. That was released in April of 1974. I would consider that classic and prog rock. I gave it 4.25 stars. Very solid band and performance on this album. March 7th, the release of Jethro Tull's Curious Ruminant. Uh, I've already done a review with my friend Steve Buckley and my friend from Norway, Ove Rendum. We did a full review of this, but at the time I gave it 4.25 stars. Um, Brand new production and Ian's voice are great. Songs are good, but it drags a little at the end. Last two songs, I think, drag it down a bit. I think I would have scored it higher otherwise. Okay, Saturday, March 8th. So, one of my viewers, Robert Denduven, and thank you very much for the suggestion. He suggested a band called Why Not? Nice play on words as opposed to YYZ. Uh, Basically, they pattern themselves after Rush, but it is a female singer. What did I say? Very Rush sounding intentionally, brilliant at times, meanders to a more country sound at others. But I liked it. I gave it 4.25 stars. Released in February of 2020. Good stuff. Thank you, Robert. March 9th, and this was one of those things where I was driving in the car with my son Jason, and sometimes what we do is we tag team. We'll listen to the same album for both of our projects. So he wanted to listen to this album, and he picked, and to his credit, he picked something that we could both listen to. So what did he pick? He picked the first Crosby, Stills and Nash album from May of 1969, self-titled folk rock. What I said about this, an almost perfect album. Jason really dug it too, and it is not from his time. I gave it 4.75 out of 5. Almost perfect. Great freaking album. I knew a lot of the songs, but I never heard them in the context of the album. Uh, uh, Funny thing, Jason had never heard these songs. It's just so wild that I grew up with a lot of these songs like Sweet Judy Blue Eyes and Marrakesh Express, for example. I've heard these on the radio ad nauseum. I'm like, Jason, have you ever heard these? No, but he liked them. Amazing, amazing. Just like today, where was I? I was in a bar and um, there was this song that came on, and I asked this young girl, I'm like, "Who's the singer?" She's like, "How could you not know?" I'm from a different time period. Uh, Needless to say, it was Miley Cyrus. And the only thing I like about that name is that Miley is the name of my dog. So there you go. All right. So another album that Jason suggested we listen to, and I'm like, yes, I haven't heard it either. A solo album by Tom Petty. Not Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, just a solo, called Wildflowers from November of 94. I gave that 4.5 stars. Solo without the Heartbreakers, if you were a fan, a great value in 15 good songs. Good job, Tom Petty. March 11th, another viewer suggestion. This came from Matt Esberger. He gave me a couple suggestions, but the first one he gave me was a band called Orange Goblin, Time Traveling Blues, stoner metal. And you want to know something? I kind of like stoner metal. It's good stuff. Um, February of 1999, I gave it 4.25 stars. Very heavy with elements of grunge. All right. Next, March 12th, and this is a band that my son Jason loves, Pavement, uh, indie rock. The album is called Slanted and Enchanted from 1992. I gave it 4 stars. A Jason favorite. Good stuff, about what I'd expect for indie rock. Uh, Basically, it was considered a real testament to its time for, real good statement for indie rock. All right, March 13th to really turning the page to an entirely different genre, back to prog rock with a female lead singer, uh, Annie Naslin. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but all I know is she was interviewed on Sea of Tranquility, which I thought was very cool. We're talking the band Renaissance. Album is called A Song for All Seasons, March 1978. 4.5 stars. Very epic sounding, wonderful melodies or wonderful harmonies. Okay, March 14th. I was always very curious. I'm talking going back to 1979, 1980, when Joe Perry first left Aerosmith. He had his own little project called the Joe Perry Project. I was always very curious what that would sound like, and I never took the time to listen. Now that I have Spotify, I can do that. His first album, Let the Music Do the Talking, um, March of 1978, rating of 4 stars. Always curious about this one. Great guitar licks and songs, plus Joe's 4 lead vocals. March 15th, and this guy is a producer extraordinaire. In addition to, I forget what band he's in. I'm gonna have to look this up. Excuse me. Okay, we're back from our little 2 second blip commercial. March 15th. So I call him a producer extraordinaire because he's remixed a lot of albums, and basically taken Jethro Tull's albums and remixed them and made these great box sets with them. I mean, I'm sure Ian had something to do with that too, but this guy was the mastermind in basically fixing the sound and improving the sound. Of course, I'm talking Steven Wilson, who was originally from the band Porcupine Tree. I didn't know that, so that's why I had to pause and go find that out for you. So, Steven Wilson released an album called The Overview, uh, March of this year, March 2025. I don't know the exact date. That the genre for that is prog and space rock. Obviously, the production is excellent. Uh, my comment, very talented prog wise, but boring in spots for someone with a more hard rock metal background. 3.75 out of 5. That's what I gave it. Uh, as you can see, if you don't laugh me out of the building. So March 16th on a Sunday, I went to something entirely different. Pirate metal, a band called Ailstorm. Uh, their last release on June of 2022. So this is a play on words of the Iron Maiden album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. This is called Seventh Rum of a Seventh Rum. 4.5 stars. If this is your thing, humor, pirates, and metal, check it out. I really enjoy it. So maybe you should check it out. Good stuff. But please don't shoot me. I mean, you know what? I like what I like. And, I gave Steven Wilson a chance, and you know what? Very talented guy, but just wasn't my cup of tea. Okay, so March 17th, this is more my cup of tea. I love this band, Creedence Clearwater Revival. They have this album called Mardi Gras. Basically, I call it, this fits into the genre of classic rock slash country rock. Uh, this is April of 1972. So at that time, there was acrimony in the CCR camp, whereas some people were unhappy that John Fogerty had full control over the direction of the music. So Fogerty got sick of it and said, basically, fuck you guys. You want to be that way? I'm only going to do a third of the work. So his brother quit the band. So he wrote a third of the songs and sang and played guitar on a third of the songs. And so his other band members, Clifford and Cook, bassist and drummer, they uh, they they had to come up with two-thirds of the material for the album to justify that. Hello, now they are involved with the have a fair share of the direction of the band. So my comment on this: the one-third Fogerty album, LOL. Good effort by Clifford. Cook, not so much. Just not the same as prior albums. Uh, 3.5 out of 5 stars. March 18th. Uh, this is another one of those suggestions by one of my viewers. So this is In My House. Thank you so much. You recommended this. The Halo Effect. March of the Unheard, melodic death metal. Now, I've heard of death metal. I've never heard of melodic death metal. And I have to tell you, uh, I've tried really hard to get into death metal, but I can't. This might just be a conduit into that because you know what? This was so much, my comment to that, easier to digest than standard death metal. Duh. Musically excellent and Maiden-esque. Excellent job. I gave this 4.75 out of 5 stars. Thank you, In My House. Very cool stuff. From there, I wanted to go to a Pink Floyd album that I had never heard. So we went to 1994 for an album called The Division Bell. I was very curious to hear what they would sound like post Roger Waters. I was not disappointed. Still very Floyd-like, very enjoyable. I thought David Gilmour did a freaking bang-up job. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Good work, David. All right. From there to March 20th, Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders. The album's called The Pretenders. I was always very curious to listen to an album of theirs because I do like them. That genre, I call that rock punk slash new wave. Little all of the above. Meanwhile, they made it to FM radio at the time. This album was released in January of 1980. I gave it 4.25 stars. Very nice mix of the emerging styles of rock. They would eventually make their way to FM rock radio. Awesome. I love it. Really good. I introduced Chrissie Hynde to my son Jason, who, because he was listening to something very similar to that, and yeah, he liked it too. Okay, from there, and I am very ashamed to say I am a little devoid in knowing all the Kansas albums. So on March 22nd, Saturday, I started from the very beginning. I went to their self-titled debut album, March 1974. Brilliant at times, have not found their full stride in prog yet, but 4.25 out of 5. We will be talking about Kansas a lot more in the near future. Okay, Sunday, March 23rd. Um, I've heard certain hit songs from this album. I never heard the album in its entirety. I'm talking Chicago 7. So basically, Chicago 7, they were tired and weary, from they had just, released Chicago 6, gone on their tour. They started, they wanted to go back to playing what they used to play in the distant past, uh, not having to worry about writing hit songs. So they came up with some jazz fusion material, uh, written in particularly by Danny Serafine and Walter Parazater, among others. So what ended up happening was they had one full album of material of this jazz fusion, but their their producer James William Guercio and Peter Cetera, among others, they were concerned that it would bomb because people are expecting more of their poppy stuff. So what did they do? They had an album. They recorded an album of their more pop material to go with this jazz fusion. So now they have basically, they were back to their third double album. No, fourth double album. They hadn't done a double album since Chicago 3. So my comment here, half jazz fusion, half typical Chicago pop of the period. Me personally, I'm a little less crazy about the jazz fusion. Uh, Better where vocals exist. Uh, I gave I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. But we will talk again in time. We are going to talk more about Chicago 7 and some of the songs on that album that I really like. So to March 24th. This was a Spotify suggestion. So every once in a while, I go into Spotify. It'll say, "Oh, maybe you'll like this because you listen to X. So here's why. Check it out." This Y turned out to be the band Argent. Um, I believe he was in the band The Young Rascals, was it? Or The Zombies? One of the two. So then he started his own band, Argent. The album is called In Deep. This is from October 1973. This is classic slash prog. Uh, I don't care for the song God Gave Rock and Roll to You. I didn't like it when Kiss did it either. Not all the songs very memorable, but Argent, he is an amazing freaking talent. Great keyboard player. Great player. That part was enjoyable. 3.5 out of 5. March 25th, back to Kansas for their second album, Song for America, uh, released in February of 1975. Brilliant at times, especially on the two lengthy numbers. I'm talking the title track specifically, Song for America, one of my favorite songs by Kansas. That I gave a 4.25 out of 5. All right. We're getting there. We're getting close. So March 26th, Wednesday. Matt Esberger, suggestion number 2 for a band called Fu Manchu, In Search of Hard Stoner Rock. This is from 1996. Uh, I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. A real early Sabbath sound. Never heard anything more distorted. Just a little too repetitive, but let me tell you, that's distortion. That freaking, that'll damage a woofer somewhere, folks. freaking really distorted. Okay, March 27th. And surprisingly, this was a very famous person, which I actually rated lower than Fu Manchu. And I'm talking freaking Sir Paul McCartney of Sir Paul McCartney and Wings. I'm talking the album Ram. I was always interested in hearing his early material. I put that genre as classic rock. May 1971. 3 out of 5. The deeper tracks, just okay. A bit surprised. It was a little disappointing. I mean, other than Uncle Admiral, what's it? Uncle Albert and Admiral Halsey. I mean, not as memorable for me, but take it or leave it. That's my opinion. It's how I hear it. Friday, March 28th. Uh, I was always very curious how very early Pink Floyd would sound, particularly the Syd Barrett era. So I listened to the album Piper at the Gates of Dawn, released in August of 1967. This was what you would consider not so much prog rock, but more psychedelic rock. The Syd Barrett album, about as out there as it gets for Pink Floyd, very trippy at times. Not bad though. I gave it 3.75 out of 5. Really made me sad what happened to Syd Barrett, kind of along the lines of Brian Jones, where they just drugs really. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but Syd Barrett, he got schizophrenia. I don't know if it was brought on by the drugs, the LSD, the hallucinogens, but yeah, they had to dismiss him from the band. He was just, band members described him as becoming a state of catatonia, is how they would describe it. But, you know, who knows what might have been if he had stayed. Instead, they brought in David Gilmour. They forged that classic sound that they really hit pay dirt by the time the album Dark Side of the Moon came around. And a bunch of albums after that, but who knows what might have been. Okay, March 29th, this past Saturday. So I was in Barnes and Noble. I was upstate this weekend. I was at the Colony Mall. There's a Barnes and Noble there, and I'm looking for some of the magazines. And there was an advertisement for Don Airey's latest album called Push to the Edge. I would consider that hard rock and keyboards. That was just released within the last week. So brand new, very refreshing after the last. Very refreshing after the last two oddities, meaning Paul McCartney's album and Piper at the Gates of Dawn. Excellent performances all around. Uh, Guitarist from Deep Purple, Simon, I can't think of his name, Simon McBride, I believe. He had two singers, but you know what? His his keyboard, his Hammond organ playing, second to none. I mean, if ever, you know, for me, I would say, I don't want to cast him in Jon Lord's shadow, but I'd say John lives through Don Airey. Glad you're still here with us. This was a freaking great album. I gave this almost a 4.75 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Going to get a few more listens. I might even do a review of this album. I liked it so much. So stay tuned for that. Okay, we're winding down. Sunday, March 30th, ZZ Top's first album, Blues and Southern Rock, January of 1971. I gave it 4.25 out of 5. raw and bluesy, but very promising of what would come later. Yeah, good stuff. Good job, guys. Uh, so to round out, um, to close out the month of March, this past Monday, March 31st. So getting back to Pete Pardo, Brendan Snyder, Grant Arthur, and Phil Ashton, I believe, talking about their favorite albums. Grant Arthur gave us a favorite album of his for a band called Aviary, self-titled. So it's considered arena slash classic rock, but there's definitely some prog in there. Uh, I have no clue what month it was released, just that it was released sometime in 1979. So we know it's a favorite of Grant Arthur. Uh, a bit proggy too. Uh, I would say there's elements of Queen and Styx, and I hear a little bit of Yes in there. Uh, so Discogs gave it an average of 3.75 out of 5. I gave it 3.5 out of 5. It's not really my cup of tea. I'm more into hard rock and metal, but you know what? Hey, I tried it. And you know what? Hey, I love the Don Airy, and there are some things that I try to listen to everything with an open mind, and you got to understand that I'm rating this after only one listen, and is what it is. But nothing really bad this month. Surprisingly, the Paul McCartney wasn't so good, but what are you going to do? So that was the month of March 2025. This is Jack Toledano speaking for All or Not According to Jack. You've just listened to another Album of the Day episode for the month of March. My personal listening room. And like a dummy, I never showed you my new background. Oh, God, I'm such an idiot. Uh, but I'm not going to go back and re-record. But you'll have this background next time. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to reveal it for next month. Voila, album of the day or month. Yeah, so this wall right up here, this was that was taken at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame that I went to about 2 summers ago. Uh, if you look really close, you could see Billy Joel, Piano Man, Bat Out of Hell, uh, Queen Jazz, I think that is, with that little that that dartboard or whatever. Simon and Garfunkel uh, just by my left ear there. Um, so yeah, so that's that. We'll close um, with this background, but like a dope, I didn't put it out there for you, but it will be here for next month. So stay tuned. Uh, and if you don't mind, I really enjoyed you giving me some suggestions. Please keep those suggestions coming. Uh, you know what? I want to hear a lot of different stuff. A lot of stuff I conjure up on my own, but you know what? I will be watching some of the uh, some of the other YouTube channels from time to time to get some ideas of what to listen to that I figure might broaden my horizons, so to speak. Uh, and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk very soon. Jack Toledano, speaking for All or Not According to Jack. Bye.